All right, peace and blessings, everybody. It's Rudy. It's Wednesday, August the 23rd, the year 2017. And I finished the book, It's All About Power. I've been reading it a little bit every night. Highly recommend it. Matter of fact, I put it on the website, yearofjubilee.com, as a resource for war. It's all about power, a true and accurate eyewitness account of the shootout between Gordon Kahl and U.S. Marshals at Medina, North Dakota, by former Medina police officers Darrell, Graf, and Steve Schnabel. When this thing went down, you could tell that they needed someone to blame, and that they had to blame the local police department. And so Darrell, Graf, and Steve Schnabel got the bulk of the bad media press, but as he writes this story, you can tell that it was U.S. Marshal Kenneth Muir that actually was trying to make a name for himself and decided at the last minute to go arrest Gordon Kahl. And if they were going to arrest him, there was much better ways to arrest him than, Kenneth Muir's last-minute planning. Bob Cheshire, I believe, called in for marked units, and Kenneth Muir called them off, which was a terrible decision to make. Gordon Kahl had made the statement that if you try to put me in prison again, I'll take 2 of you with me, and that I'm not going to look for a war, and I'm not going to come looking for you, but you guys don't need to come looking for me. This is after Gordon Kahl had already spent a year in prison. For many believe that he shouldn't have even had to spend the 1 year in prison, and that was in Texas, I believe. But this is a very well-written book. I think it gives you some very good insight into the Gordon Kahl story. I think it's written by people who were there. One of the things that came out is that Darrell Graf said that Darrell Graf is this gentleman right here, I believe. He said that it's better to have released truthful information in the beginning. And it's funny because they're both law enforcement, or they're ex-law enforcement. And typically you think of, when people use the word pigs, you think someone, well, they're referring to a police officer. But no, Darrell Graf uses the word pigs to refer to the media. And he said they're going to eat something, and they're going to find something to eat. So rather than just not provide any information, it's better to get somebody to provide some information. And when no information was provided to the media, the media just started to make fall guys out of the Medina Police Department. And that ended up getting the entire local police department fired by the mayor. But, he made the case that, he called the media pigs, and said that, it's better to give them good food as opposed to that they'll just feed on slop, and they will put something out. It talks a lot about post-traumatic stress disorder and what he went through, as well as other people involved after the shootout. It talks about the unjust trial of Yori and Scott Fall, which I want to cover. This is a picture of Gordon Kahl. This was something I wanted to highlight. I would love to find this old show. In 1976, I would be 10 years old by that time. Gordon appeared on a television program in Midland, Texas called Taxpayer Rights versus IRS Power, moderated by a man named Frank Brown. While on this television show, Gordon voiced his views on income tax laws and sheriff's posse comitatus. It goes on to say that he influenced a lot of people that saw that television show, and that a lot of people refused to file their income taxes. Therefore, Gordon Kahl became a target of the IRS. So, anyway, Gordon Kahl was convinced they tried to kill him while he was in jail. And he said, if they put me in jail again, they're going to kill me, and I will not let them kill me. So this was his car. This was Schnabel's Mercury found under the trees, left by Kahl after the shootout. It tells some pictures and diagrams of the shootout. It's very well written. The only thing I would say is Darrell Graf talks a little bit too much about being the victim. He took a lot of, he took a lot of blame for what happened, and it wasn't his fault. It was Kenneth Muir's fault. Anybody with half a brain realizes that it was the U.S. Marshal's fault on what happened, and Darrell Graf was trying to do the right thing to protect life. And Kenneth Muir, like most FBI agents and U.S. Marshals, want to make a name for themselves. So whoever put out the all-points bulletin gave law enforcement basically the go-ahead to take down Gordon Kahl, knowing that he would resist and knowing that there would be violence. So it talks about the farm crisis and how the Gordon Kahl is like the dirt farmer who started the whole thing. You know, he talked about how the Jews own the Federal Reserve. They've infiltrated every aspect of our country. You know, they've got an agenda to pervert and corrupt our educational systems, our schools, our colleges, our Congress, Hollywood. And he just laid it all out, you know, and you can say that's anti-Semitic, but I would say that I disagree with a belief system more so than I disagree with an ethnicity. So I do highly recommend this book. The book is on our website, yearofjubilee.com. I think it's important to learn from history. Waco, Ruby Ridge, Oklahoma City. It all started with this man. Where's he at? It all started with a dirt farmer in North Dakota. He's the one who started it. Okay, this stuff has been going on for a long time. If you think unconstitutional trials and them banning the Constitution from the courtroom is bad, it's been going on for a long, long time. Long, long time. In the back of this book, in the appendix, what I wanted to share with you guys is a affidavit from a juror. And the juror just basically says that he didn't have the courage to stand up against the judge and that he feels bad about that now, but that Yori Kahl and Scott Fall did not receive a fair trial. And he gives in his affidavit, which is several pages, reason after reason after reason. As a matter of fact, I probably should show that because that's so important. Yeah, I want to read at least, this is it right here. He says, keep in mind it's several pages and he's just listed all the examples. This is the juror's affidavit. His name is Marley's Kimlick, right there. He was a juror on the Scott Fall and Yori Kahl trial where they've basically been sentenced to life in prison. They're still in prison right now as we speak. I think Scott Fall is in his mid-60s and Yori is probably a little bit older than me. But he says, it was all these kinds of statements and conduct that led me to conclude during the trial that the defendants were not getting a fair trial, that the jurors had not been screened carefully enough, and that there was a strong bias against the defendants even before the trial started. That is what I wanted to talk to the judge about, but I just could not find the courage and strength to do so during the trial. When the jury was polled, I told myself that I was going to say that it was not my verdict. Somehow, when it came to me, I could not. I am truly sorry today that I did not. Further affiant saith not. And that was signed on February the 9th, 1999 by a juror of Scott Fall and Yori Kahl. Yori Kahl is Gordon Kahl's son, who's spending life in prison. I'm communicating with both Yori and Scott, by the way, and I think Scott is a very strong Christian man, and I have reason to believe that Yori is too. One other thing I wanted to bring out is that Darrell Graf, he's this man here, he does not believe that it matters who shot first, which is shocking to me. You know, it's almost like these law enforcement officials believe that if you get out of the car with a gun, that they can shoot you, whether you're pointing it at them or not, or whether it's in a holster or not. And that's what Sergeant Henry Folsom believed when he shot Jeffrey Winehouse twice in the head and twice in the chest. That if you get out with a gun, which is your legal right to do so, and you're not pointing it and it's holstered, they can just shoot you. And, you know, there was an incident just recently, and I'll try to put a link in the description bar, where the police officer told a unarmed 17-year-old boy to comply or die. That's the police officer's motto nowadays. Comply, get on your knees, get on your face, drop the camera, and if you don't do exactly as we say, you're going to die. Comply or die. It's all about power. I recommend you read it. I've read it. It totally awakened me to some of the injustices that are going on for our brother in Christ, Yori Kahl and Scott Fall. These people are alive and in prison right now today. And it totally awakened me to the context of the farm crisis, the tax disagreements between Gordon Call and the federal government, the posse comitatus issue of the sheriff is the highest law enforcement officer of the land, and how the federal government will go to no lengths. They have no morals. They have no moral fabric whatsoever. They will set up anybody that stands up against them, and they will take them down, and they will murder them. They absolutely will. And they've been doing it for a long time, and they'll even try to put their wife and their children in prison for the rest of their life. And it's been going on. The government has been corrupted for a long, long time, and it's better to learn from history so we don't have to repeat it. The last line of peaceful defense between a tyrannical government and the defendant is jury nullification. Educate yourself about jury nullification at fija.org.